I am not well. Since I was a child, I have been weak and sickly, and my will to live has been low. It's easy for me to be a useless good-for-nothing, and I don't mind doing it. But on the day I received a brief video of my fiancé passionately kissing someone else, I was outraged. I allowed the attractive and pure Maid move into the house right away. I said, let her live here. Throw out all of Willow's things. Chapter 1. A girl in ordinary clothes with a side braid suddenly came into the maid's chamber. I said, who is she? The butler politely said, young master, this is the new bride that President Wang found. For you, a ritual marriage for banishing misfortune. People say she can take Miss Liu's spot. The girl at the door had on a basic white outfit and carried a bulging blue woven bag, but she stood very straight, with a slender, graceful body, and clean from head to toe. Even her ancient canvas shoes had been washed so clean that they looked faded white. The butler presented young master, this is Anna brought back from village of Clear Waters by President Wang. Her school move has already been organized. Tomorrow she will go to school with you. I stared at this stranger named Anna. Her features were lovely and gentle, her eyes clear and pure. Even without makeup, her fresh and refined beauty could not be concealed. She smiled as she asked a servant something, and only after making sure she wouldn't dirty the floor did she enter inside to change her shoes. Her brows curled, her gaze leaned slightly higher. When she smiled, it inexplicably recalled people of a summer Coke loaded with ice, bubbling, refreshing, and thirst-quenching. I frowned. She's someone my mother brought back, I asked, but can she replace Willow? And I had a marriage contract since childhood. In name, she was my fiancée. In truth, she was chosen by my family after they sought the instruction of a fortune teller during a moment of worry, a life-saving girl. I had been frail from birth, suffering from congenital heart problems. I could die at any moment. It was calculated that Willow's destiny pattern matched mine. If she stayed tightly attached to me, she could extend my life. The Wang family brought the Liu family enormous benefits, so the Liu family dispatched Willow Liu to the Wang home for a ritual marriage for removing misfortune. The butler selected his words carefully. President Wang's meaning is that Anna can replace Miss Liu, but they don't conflict. If you still like Miss Liu, like I couldn't even be bothered to lift my eyelids. When I thought of Willow kissing her desk partner in the school, a nasty, sticky feeling suddenly welled up. Downstairs, the young girl seemed to catch my stare. She raised her eyes, and when they met mine, she froze for a moment. From above, I stared down at her, watched as she cautiously placed down her woven bag, bowed to me, then straightened and gave me a grin. It felt like spring coming. To the green meadows full of vitality, the discomfort in my throat was quickly erased. Chapter 2. Anna was arranged to move into the maid's room below. I said, have her move into the room next to mine. I told them, come see me after you've tidied it up. The room next door had originally been Willow's. The butler hurried up to stabilize me and inquired gently, young master, what about Miss Liu's possessions? I replied, throw them all away. My tone was indifferent. I said, now that there's a replacement, the Wang family doesn't need her anymore. Anna didn't have many belongings. The butler claimed she had just put down her baggage and asked if she could wash up first. Maybe it wasn't truly a bath. She only rinsed herself with cold water drops stuck to the tips of her hair, and she still shivered slightly when she got out. Anna changed into a new pair of clothes. Well, newish. They were a bit worn, but it seemed to be the greatest garment she owned, at least without patches. You could see this was the most extensive preparation Anna could imagine completing before meeting me. I smelled a faint whiff of soap on her, simple but natural. Her Mandarin wasn't conventional. She worked to adjust the tones and greeted me. Benefactor, I've finally seen you. Those lake-like eyes were bright and clear, untouched by dust as sunlight fell into them. She looked at me devoutly and intensely, as if she were looking at an ancestral shrine statue. Benefactor, I remarked in a flat tone, you were just sold to the Wang family. That meant that from now until the day I died, she would lose her freedom and be by my side. There was no difference between it and Willow. My remark seemed to surprise Anna for a time, but after only a few seconds she replied, but I am not worth that amount. The line sounded excessively self-deprecating, yet there was no self-pity in her look. Anna grinned again. The brows curved, the eyes raised at the corners, a smile full of young vigor. In the photo in her file, she was smiling like that too. A sweet, clean smile that made the world look cheerful. She said, "You created the school that allowed me to pursue my education. You saved my sister and covered for medical expenditures I could never have earned in a lifetime. You brought me away from village of clear waters. Things I never imagined I'd see outside the village. I never believed I would meet you." Anna crouched down and gazed up at me, her tone sincere. "Among so many others, being chosen by you, being bought by you, is my fortune." She appeared obedient like a kitten that wants its head patted. I scowled in some puzzlement because I couldn't grasp how anybody smile like that, living such a life stuck in dirt with nothing beyond the horizon. Chapter 3. I had read Anna's file, a few brief paragraphs that drew out a dreary, agonizing half-life. Her family was too poor, her parents went off to work, and never returned. Her grandfather raised her alone, and from overwork died 2 years ago. Anna was obliged to drop out of school, caring for her seriously ill sister, while doing anything she could to acquire money for medicine. Later, my mother went to village of Clear Waters to invest in charity initiatives, developed a loving school, and discovered her. Over the years, my parents have operated themselves ragged, one searching for the best medical team for me, the other creating charitable projects in my name. Paul and Laura were not superstitious people at beginning, but when human efforts could not change what was before them, when I first lapsed into a coma in the ICU and doctors around the world were powerless, they began to pray to gods and visit temples. They started doing good things, desperately praying that merit would fall on me, and they began to believe in so-called metaphysics. They even recruited masters and began to accept the idea of a marriage of fortune, searching everywhere for someone whose destiny pattern matched mine. The algorithm for destiny patterns is quite sophisticated. Very few people meet the prerequisites. In all these years, I only encountered 2. Willow was the first. Anna was the second. In actuality, I don't believe in any marriage of fortune either. How could metaphysical conceptions cure illnesses modern medicine cannot? How could a stranger I've never met bring me good luck? My body will inevitably decline, but I didn't want to disappoint Paul and Laura, so I let Willow stay by my side all those years and tacitly accepted that marriage pact. Chapter 4. Memories were not quite warm. The tear-soaked eyelashes of my father and mother had poured storm after storm into the depths of my heart, yet I could only lock that melancholy, crying, suffering version of myself, lest such powerful emotions fully demolish my already disintegrating physique. I had long accepted my own death, but I could not stop the desire of the mortal heart. I still wanted to live a bit longer, at least long enough to accompany Paul and Laura for some more time. So the George who stood before them was always the chilly, indifferent one. I responded, "I understand." Then I looked at Anna and continued, "There's no need to call me benefactor, and don't use the formal you." She bit her lip. "Mr. Wang." She lifted her head. "May I call you that?" I waved a hand. "Suit yourselves." Anna looked as though she had received something of tremendous importance. She was about to say something more when a breeze brushed by. She hastily stepped back, looked away, and sneezed. At last, she seemed a little ashamed. "Sorry, Mr. Wang." I glanced at her damp hair. "You just had a frigid shower." She said, "Yes." I thought, since I was going to meet Mr. Wang, I couldn't be impolite. I was afraid. I cut her off. "You don't know how to turn on the hot water." She nodded sincerely. I responded, "Go dry your hair first, then have the butler instruct." "You..." Meeting her eyes overflowing with expectation, I stopped for a few seconds before muttering instead, "Forget it. Come with me." I began teaching Anna about some of the basic conveniences in the room. She learned intently. Then her gaze fell on a couple little chairs in the corner, and her expression turned contemplative. I questioned, "What is it?" She said, "These chairs aren't suitable for you. They're too little. I think this room should contain a broad, comfortable chair for Mr. Wang, so that when you come over, you can rest." I halted. This had once been Willow's room. She had always liked delicate, tiny furniture, and I rarely entered it. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from Willow. She said, "I'll go back to my own house tonight." Then briefly reported I told Tony he'll pick me up tomorrow morning. Tony was my driver and personal assistant. I finally realized that an hour ago I had planned to see Willow to ask her about what she said with Makoto. Let's keep our relationship hidden. George mustn't find out. Don't worry, Makoto. I won't let him touch me. But now the Wang family had no longer need of her. From this moment on, she would be someone who had nothing to do with me. I didn't reply to her. Instead, I sent a message to Tony. The butler had previously issued notice to revoke all of Willow's privileges, banning her from ever accessing the Wang household again. I added, "From now on, don't pick Willow up again." Then I turned to Anna. "This is your room. If you wish to replace anything, tell the butler yourself." She asked, "But may I come ask you?" I was puzzled. "Why ask me?" she said sincerely. "Because it's a chair for you. So it should be something Mr. Wang enjoys." My voice was frigid. "Suit yourselves." But Anna smiled again, her lips curving upward, fresh and beautiful, as if some immense happiness had struck her head on. She must have learned my routine. One glance at the clock on the wall, and she realized it was time for me to rest. So she said, "See you tomorrow, Mr. Wang." After a pause, I added, "See you tomorrow." Chapter 5. That memory was not warm. I dreamed that night about Willow as a child. Willow had been raised in my family since she was tiny. The room next to me was hers. She came to reside with the Wang household whenever she wanted, and went home whenever she desired. Because of me, her everyday necessities and treatment were always top tier. The Wang family's only expectation of her was, stay with me, comfort me, and don't let me become mad. Unsurprisingly, she had to remain by my side until my death, and even married me. We grew up together, attended the same school, sat in the same class. We were childhood buddies for nearly 10 years. She excelled in her studies and was startlingly attractive. A life of luxury had given her an air of aristocratic refinement, like a highland flower blooming in the snow. Willow's attitude was cool and reserved. She never displayed any emotion, yet there was always a subtle pride in her gestures. That pride only eased when she was with me. Even so, she only followed the Wang family's directions and did nothing extra. Our interactions were always as boring as water. On pleasant days, she would join me for walks, bring me a book she liked when we went to the library, or order a dish I often ate at meals. But that was all. We seldom spoke. When we were children, Willow could have fretted over how to impress me. However, once she understood my emotions were always mild and that I rarely felt furious, she learned a softer way of living. She wouldn't exhaust herself trying to win me over, nor would she spend additional time conversing with me. To her, I became more and more like an unseen tether she could not release herself from. At the time, I didn't think much of it. My body was meant to prohibit me from carrying vivid, powerful emotions. Excitement, anger, agony, sadness. I could not own them. I was too fragile, so no one dared come close. They couldn't bear the risk of me getting hurt. I had become used to Willow's presence, and companionship tolerated her hauteur, and I wasn't angered by the occasional arrogance she demonstrated. To me, she was more than anything a tool that afforded my parents some psychological comfort, but I was flesh and blood after all. 10 years of daily companionship meant I had invested one of the few feelings I was capable of entering Willow. Makoto was a student admitted via special selection. His family was poor, and he was timid. Even when bullied, he did not resist. Yet he always seemed inexhaustibly lively and joyful. He may be rejected innumerable times and still smiling as he urged classmates to play ball with him. He could volunteer to run for class president. He could sign up to perform at school activities and sing his heart out. He was the opposite of me, robust and energetic. It was the first time I discovered Willow had so many words to say that she would thoughtfully inquire about someone's tastes, wash hands, and cook for another, and be truly moved by a present instead of being picky. So everything about her and Makoto had long since been set before me. They even handed me surveillance footage of the two of them kissing after evening study. Makoto said distraught, "It's so cruel. Why does George have to attach you to him? Haven't you lost enough freedom already?" Willow was silent for a minute, then stated plaintively, "His health is poor. We have to hide this for now. Makoto, don't worry, I won't let him touch me." She added, "Anyway, I've borne this for so long. I don't mind waiting a bit longer. After that, we'll be free." Then they nestled together again, lovely and affectionate, like a pair of ill-fated lovers I had broken apart. I couldn't say I was angry. That kind of emotion would rise up and leave me breathless. I was only mildly interested and wanted to question her myself in person. Wronged. What did she mean by being wronged? Chapter 6. At school. After Anna led me into the classroom, everyone froze. Then surprised, incredulous expressions spread and whispers started. Someone said, "Who is that? I've never seen her before." Another said, "Weird. Why isn't it Willow?" A student inquired, "Did the Wang family switch girls?" A girl snapped, "Ugh, how come these good things never happen to me? Blame my mom for not giving birth to me at the correct hour." Another girl requested, "Can I try? I wish to be the Wang young master's ritual marriage lucky charm. I want to see Willow's face." Someone else said Great George finally got tired of her. Anna looked frightened at first, as virtually the whole class was watching at her, but she immediately relaxed. She assured me, "I will study hard." I gave her a blank expression. She added, "I'll get first place. I absolutely won't humiliate the Wang family." Her voice was fervent, like making a pledge. I was speechless. She came over to my side and began to tidy my desk, shining it from top to bottom till it sparkled. The butler claimed that after I went to rest last night, Anna helped the maid mop the floor, helped the gardener water the flowers, then jogged around the yard while silently chanting English. She even got out a tiny notebook and jotted things down. I glanced at it without trying to and found it was all about me. How long I generally nap, when I like to go for walks, what kind of literature I read in the reading room, what kind of breakfast I like, when I take my medicine. A single page filled with these notes. She had gotten up before dawn today, gone for a morning run, taken a shower, and started studying. She had helpfully assisted the cook in making breakfast. That beautiful epiphyllum pastry on today's meal was created by her. Can a human truly have so much limitless energy? I was baffled and asked, "Aren't you tired?" She shook her head. "Not tired," she said, then poured me a cup of hot water and looked up at me with a smile. I'm happy to do these things. I had seen innumerable individuals lie before. They wear masks, charming, hypocritical, affected, ingratiating, delivering phony blessings, including Willow. Sometimes Willow's concern felt forced, laced with hatred she had to swallow down. I could see it all, but I was unwilling to expose it. I didn't even have the spare energy to care about their genuine thoughts hiding inside. It didn't matter, I wouldn't mind. But I had never seen somebody like Anna. She seemed like a spring downpour from the mountains, unspoiled by the city's filth, not toughened by abrupt cold or snow. She didn't hide her stupidity from me, nor was she ashamed of it, and she concealed nothing. Everything she said sounded true. Chapter 7. The class bell rang. A girl's voice sounded, "Report." It was Willow arriving late at last. Makoto trailed behind, her looking somewhat untidy. Willow's breathing was uneven, her chest rising and falling abruptly, yet her glance in that initial instant landed on me, or rather on Anna, who sat opposite me. Willow froze. Her expression flickered with confusion, puzzlement, irritation, anger, yet she instantly buried it all. In the end, she only sat down with a grim expression. Even while Makoto alongside her sought to pacify her with a servile grin, she disregarded him. Her purposeful avoidance to look at me contained an undercurrent of restlessness. I paid no heed to her actions, not sparing her a single glance, because I was busy teaching Anna how to use the electronic gadgets required in class. She knew nothing, yet she was quick to learn. Even the questions that revealed a lack of common sense didn't feel bothersome coming from her. The first lesson was English listening practice. Anna naturally shared one of her earphones with me. The sunlight gilded her black, luscious hair with a lovely golden luster, and her grin lightened the mood like a wind. The words of refusal I'd wanted to utter stopped in my throat. Normally, I never participated in such activities or classroom training. First, because studying consumed too much of my strength, and everyone hoped I would rest instead. Even attending school like a normal student was something my parents discussed for a long time before consenting to. Second, because none of this was tough for me. The English discussions that appeared complicated and unintelligible to Anna were ones I could reproduce word for word without effort. But Anna didn't know that, nor did she presume my abilities were innate or taken for granted. When she looked at me, it wasn't as though she were seeing a patient to be treated with watchful distance, nor an abnormality she had to flatter. She was merely staring at me, just George. Even if she called me Mr. Wang, her eyes had no excess, simply clarity and sincerity. I waited for a few seconds, then accepted the earphone. Soon the training was over. The foreign teacher at the platform continued energetically. Anna was visibly struggling to keep up with the all-English lesson, but she was totally serious. Her pen never stopped going. Perhaps recognizing the new face in class, the teacher kindly encouraged her to act in a role-play skit, but his words was too quick. Even after he repeated himself, several sentences were still unintelligible to Anna. Now, Anna stood up looking a little lost. She hadn't understood what he intended. The class stared at her shocked, but out of etiquette, no one spoke up. And in that silence, one faint snicker went through like a knife. It was Willow. Though she said nothing, the curvature of her lips conveyed a subtle scorn, a clear trace of mockery. She raised her hand, conversing fluently with the teacher. "Teacher, let me do it," Willow stated in excellent American English, the consequence of lessons from my former English tutor. "This new student can't even understand what you're saying. What you're asking is beyond her ability." Her tone was calm, but the scorn was clear. Makoto definitely realized something was wrong. He murmured to Willow, but she disregarded him entirely, her stare fixated on Anna, as if staring at a bitter enemy. But Anna did not react the way Willow expected. She displayed no indication of humiliation or shame. Her attitude regarding her own ignorance was always calm. Things like these never appeared to harm her pride. Instead, she simply looked a little uncomfortable and whispered to me, "Mr. Wang, did I make you lose face?" I shook my head, then lifted my hand. "Teacher," I answered slowly. "I'll be her partner." The foreign teacher's face lit up with excitement. "Really? That's wonderful." Anna turned to me. I explained, "She's inviting you to act out a role-play skit." Suppressing the mild itch in my throat, I added calmly, "I'll do it with you." The teacher's speech was too fast. Anna might not keep up. Besides, Willow was purposely attempting to embarrass her. There was no way I would sit by and watch. But I had never volunteered for this sort of class project before. This was the first time. Anna didn't realize it, but Willow did. Her expression went blank then, whether out of shock or disbelief. Her gaze darted away before returning to me, her beautiful brows and eyes filled with incredulity. For a second, she almost lost control. She even rose up and stated harshly to the teacher, "Don't you know George's condition isn't suitable for these activities?" The teacher froze her expression, a mix of astonishment and embarrassment. She was new this semester, of course. Previous teachers had told her about my issue. But to her, this was simply a small classroom skit, especially because I had offered to participate. "George," she replied, uncertainly, glancing at me. I scowled slightly, disregarding Willow altogether. Clearing my throat, I said, "I can. Let's begin." Willow's cheeks grew pale. Her lips quivered as if she wanted to say, but her pride forced her into silence. She sat down, unwilling, defeated. The exercise was a passage from a British drama. I slowed my pace, reshaping the awkward, complex lines into simpler structures. Anna understood. Her spoken English wasn't standard, but her voice was pleasant, earnest, and focused. When we concluded, the teacher applauded us first. Anna sat down, turned her head toward me, and her eyes shimmered with light. Tilting her head, she said, "Mr. Wang, you're fantastic." I tried to pass it off as nothing but paused, and instead said, "You'll be able to as well in the future." I thought, I'll hire her a better English tutor when we return. Chapter 8. The school cafeteria has 5 stories. The 5th floor had been reserved by my parents entirely for me. Every day, nutritionists and chefs customized my meals, plus there were other buffet portions as, well, it was effectively my private lounge. A few classmates, those I was on good terms with, or whose families had business ties with mine, were also allowed to come up. Anna and I sat near the window. A couple students came over smiling as they greeted us, their eyes roving tentatively over Anna, but without roughness. Anna stated they seemed to envy me. She lifted her eyes to mine, her gaze brilliant and bright, carrying a smile. "Is it because I can sit across from Mr. Wang during lunch?" My tone was bland. "That's nothing worth envying." Willow had never liked eating with me. Probably because I ate slowly, my food was bland, and the look alone reduced one's appetite. Also because I was boring, has little to say, making others lose the drive to share. Or maybe because she was always striving to satisfy me, flatter me, and in doing so, lost the joy of dining totally. Anna paused, staring at me for a bit. Her voice carried uncertainty as she inquired automatically, That's not something worth envying. The next second she realized what she'd said, and her cheeks grew hot. Even the girl who showed no embarrassment when criticized in class now seemed flustered, like someone whose secret feelings had just been exposed. But perhaps she didn't know how to lie. She tripped over her words, explaining in bits, because being with Mr. Wang, it makes me feel pleased. What it took me a bit to grasp what she meant. Like wind rippling across the surface of a lake. A knowing stillness lasted for some seconds. We both bowed our heads and continued eating. Chapter 9. Suddenly there was a commotion at the entrance. Willow was walking up with Makoto. Both of them seemed as though their emotions had recovered. The irritation and unhappiness from the morning were gone. Willow's eyes now rested on Makoto with gentle tenderness. She said, "Makoto, have you ever had fish stew? On the 5th floor buffet, they make a couple pots every day. You should sample it later." "Sure." Makoto grinned indulgently. "But this kind of thing is merely for experimenting. You shouldn't eat it every day. It's easy to go from modest to lavish, but hard to go back. Honestly, sometimes these pricey items don't taste as nice as the fiery hot pot booths outside." Willow nodded in agreement. "All right then, if you don't like it, we can go out and eat spicy hot pot instead." But the next moment, they were stopped. The cafeteria manager at the entrance said politely, "The 5th story is not open to the public. Please use another floor." Willow froze. She asked in disbelief, "Do you know who I am?" The manager's smile didn't waver. "You don't have access to the 5th floor." Willow's face darkened instantly. Word by word, she said, "You should know what my relationship with George is." The manager said calmly, "Is that so?" His smile faded as his gaze ran thoughtfully across Makoto, whose expression had tightened. "I've received notice. Your engagement to young Master Wang has been dissolved, and your 5th floor rights have been withdrawn." Willow's face turned blank. She asked slowly, "What did you say?" Makoto's lips curled at the words, but he quickly contained it, portraying perplexity as he stared at Willow. The manager, remaining cordial, said, "You will soon receive the notice yourself." "I don't believe it," Willow blurted out. A moment later, she collected herself, plucking at her lips with forced calm. "I'll ask him myself. What you received is false news." But the manager didn't budge. "Please dine on another floor." As they argued, the employees on the 5th floor began casting odd eyes at Willow. Someone couldn't help but snicker. In the end, it was Makoto who broke beneath the weight of the atmosphere. With an embarrassed smile, he whispered, "Willow, let's just head out for spicy hot pot." "It doesn't matter. Honestly, that dish doesn't even look appetizing." But Willow wouldn't move. She had been pampered all her life, appreciated everywhere she went. How could she accept being embarrassed in public like this? She said, "Think carefully." After steadying her breath, her voice contained a threat. "I am the daughter of the Liu family. You're just a low-level employee who flatters the mighty and tramples the vulnerable. Whether you can keep this job depends on one word from me." The manager said, "Are you threatening me?" His smile vanished entirely, his voice harsh and forceful. "Even if you are a Liu family heiress, I work for the Wang family. I simply follow the Wang family's commands." The audience became larger, and Willow's patience was plainly gone. With a frigid sniff, she remarked, "You'd better understand the implications of what you're doing." The manager answered, his tone finally cold. "Young Master Wang revoked your right to enter this cafeteria. Today, you cannot come in." Chapter 10. As they spoke, I had already walked to the entryway. "What implications does he need to consider?" I asked. The manager promptly greeted me, his voice tinted with apology. "Young Master Wang," he said, "forgive me for disrupting your supper." I shook my head. "You did good. Go back to your duties." Then I lifted my gaze to Willow. "He is an employee of the Wang family acting on my behalf. So if he doesn't let you inside the cafeteria, what right do you have to threaten his job?" Willow squeezed her lips together. "George, I was merely irritated because he circulated false rumors." Her voice subconsciously softened a little, but the moment her eyes landed on Anna beside me, her tone went chilly again. With a faint, scornful snort, she said, "I wanted to inquire this morning. Why didn't the driver come to pick me up? And who is she? I'm your fiancé. Don't you think you owe me an explanation?" "Willow." I cut her off. He wasn't lying. The engagement is over. What, you don't need to come to the Wang household anymore? My tone contained no emotion. "You're free earlier than expected." Willow froze. Then, pointing at Anna, her voice increased loudly. "It's because of her, isn't it? Because you found a replacement, you can so easily cast me aside, George. Do you even have a heart? Noisy, tactless, blind to the circumstance. In the past, my patience had always been abundant. I rarely grew angry because anger wasn't worth it, and because I didn't care about trifles. But it didn't mean I would tolerate her ranting at me. Even if I authorized it, my parents never would." I coughed gently twice, about to speak, when Anna spoke first. "Mr. Wang." She lifted her glance to me, her face innocent, her tone sweet. "If Willow is no longer your fiancé, then whatever I do to her, you won't mind, will you?" I glanced at her, bewildered, and answered, "I wouldn't." Almost the second I finished speaking, smack, Anna's hand smashed across Willow's face. Anna had grown up in the mountains, washing laundry, cooking, transporting water and firewood, caring for her sibling while attending school. Though her form looked tiny and fragile, she was in actuality tough and strong. In a second, Willow's cry of pain, Makoto's stern scolding, and the gasps of bystanders all merged together. The image of Anna I held in my mind was entirely overturned. Willow was pinned beneath her, desperately extending her arms to block the blows, like an antelope seized at the throat by a leopard sending out scared whimpers. Makoto, meanwhile, appeared absolutely cowardly. He extended out his hands half-heartedly, pressing half-heartedly, shielding, putting on the show of protecting Willow. But Anna threw a slap on him too, sending him staggering back. He said faintly, "If not for the fact that I don't hit women." Anna's smile had faded. Her countenance was icy, her entire person wreathed in a chilling atmosphere. Of course, what more could one expect a child from the lonely countryside, blessed with such exquisite looks, yet compelled to care for her ill granddad and younger sister? Without her edges, she would have been pulled apart long ago, left with nothing. Spring rain typically arrives with a piercing chill. The incident stunned everyone present. After restraining Willow, Anna no longer moved. She merely turned her head to gaze at me attentively, waiting for my words. In the past, I never enjoyed resolving issues through violence. Yet somehow this feeling wasn't unpleasant at all. I crouched down and asked Willow who allowed you to speak to me that way. Reaching for a cup of water at the side, I slowly poured it over her head. "Are you clear-headed now?" Makoto stood by, like he hadn't witnessed a thing, not daring to make a sound. Soaked through, Willow looked as though she had been jerked up from a dream, fully realized where she was and what kind of situation this was. Rationality restored to her, and so did terror. She lowered herself to me. "George, I'm sorry. I simply didn't understand. Why was the engagement suddenly dissolved? Even if you found someone to replace me after so many years together, the sensations we shared." I repeated her words. So many years of feelings. I tasted them, my voice chilly as ice. But in your view, it was nothing more than chains you couldn't shrug off. What feelings were there to talk of? Willow's face grew pale. She shook her head. "No, it's not like that. I never thought so." "George, I was incorrect. I apologize." The manager offered me another cup of water. "Shh." My low voice stopped her off. Her hollow confession was terrible. I poured again, slow and steady. "Was it the Liu family that gave you such confidence?" My attention turned to Makoto. "The confidence to tell him that once I'm dead, you'll both be free." The air froze. Not a sound. Willow's look could no longer be defined as merely ugly. It was scared, desperate. She looked around at the gathering crowd, trying for words to defend herself, but nothing came. But Makoto, he seemed to heal first. Clenching his fists, he stammered, "Young Master Wang, I know Willow was engaged to you, but she never loved you. You've kept her by your side for so many years. Isn't that enough? And now that you've found someone to replace her, now that you know the truth, why not just let her go?" I grinned. "Haven't I already let her go? The engagement is over. Your relationship has nothing to do with me." Makoto blinked, then asked hesitantly, "Then, young Master Wang won't target us afterward, right?" I hesitated, looked at the two of them attentively before speaking the truth in my heart. "Are you that important?" "Ift." Someone in the crowd laughed, then another and another, until laughter and snickers rippled through the air. "Why would young Master Wang waste energy on the likes of you?" someone said. "Go act in a melodrama. No one here cares about you. Stupid and shameless, not knowing your place." Others joined in. "What chains are you insane? Has young Master Wang ever restricted Willow's freedom? He even ignored it when you performed your vile tricks, just dissolving the engagement, that's all. Exactly. Some people want it both ways. If you sought freedom, you should have confessed to the Wang family yourself. But no, you couldn't part with the resources they granted you. Right. Without the Wang family, who do you believe you are? Willow really thought you were a beloved princess. Do something wrong, get away without punishment, and still make a scene. Don't you know, the 5th level is young Master Wang's private dining hall. You sneak in for complimentary meals and drag your lover with you. Where's your shame? So jealous of anyone who can be this shameless. The mockery tore them apart. Makoto kept his head down in disgrace. As for Willow, her face flushed red. Only when Anna released her did she manage to propel herself off the ground. She opened her mouth wanting to grasp for my sleeve, but I shoved her hand away. Anna, I remarked, no longer sparing them a glance. I'm a little tired. Let's go. Chapter 11. Beside the university was a little park. It had also been reserved by my parents as a private retreat with a gate in the back wall that only I could enter. I liked to come here at lunch breaks, strolling alone into this ocean of green. The wind rustled, the sun was warm. Every stir of the leaves carried its own rhythm. I breathed together with innumerable lives. Even if I was alone, I never felt lonely. Anna didn't realize Willow had never once stepped into this secret forest. She didn't ask about what had just transpired in the cafeteria, nor about Willow or Makoto. Instead, she crouched down in delight, pointing at a bunch of mushrooms. These are edible. She informed me she often foraged in the mountains. Wild fruits mushrooms. She knew them all by memory. She stated she could create swings and hammocks, and next time wanted to build one here. She even mentioned she had some little bird friends in the forest occasion when a storm was threatening. She had moved their nest to a safer area, and subsequently, they often came to her to play. I listened closely. Finally, Anna moved her head toward me. Mr. Wang, let's make a kite and fly it together. She said, I'll make sure it soars higher, and you'll stay here, holding the string. The shift of subject was startling, but I merely smiled lightly and murmured, all right. She went on. Next time I'll bring a tablecloth. We can enjoy a picnic here. After eating, you can nap, and I'll sit by your side to chat. If you get exhausted, I'll push you back. The scene she painted sounded inviting. I thought about it, then couldn't help but smile. At last, I said slowly, all right. Words like next time in the future, if they were too far away from me, but I didn't want to damper her excitement. Someone who lives each day confronting death has no cause to disappoint the one who cares about them. Anna. I called her name seriously. In the future, you can make your own pals, go to a prestigious university, find a decent career, fall in love, marry, and live the life you want. We both knew when the future meant. Anna was silent for a few seconds. Then she apologized. Mr. Wang, I'm sorry. I grimaced slightly for what she said, even though your life will still be very long. If you always put things off for someday, you'll end up with regrets. She smiled. So let's have that picnic tomorrow. She smiled at me, but her eyes were like a sun shower, bright but packed with rain. I still said, all right. She questioned Mr. Wang. Are you this kind to everyone? I said, this is kindness. Yes. She tilted her head, mumbling something softly. Anna, I asked, were you angry at Willow and Makoto just now? Yes. She nodded. They offended you. Their apologies wasn't real. Yet when they offended her, she hadn't been outraged. She hadn't even bothered about Willow's embarrassment. I asked again, are you generally this dutiful in your employment? At least in attitude and in delivering comfort, she far surpassed Willow's phony pretension. She shook her head. After a pause, her voice low. No, only for you, Mr. Wang. If someone else had said this, I might have laughed. But from her lips, it seemed totally real. I asked, bewildered, why I saw no selfishness in her no ulterior agenda. Even though the Wang family had compensated, her genuineness cannot be purchased. Because you forgot me. Her voice was quite light. Actually, we met a long time ago. That truly surprised me. But Anna seemed to understand she had slipped. Quickly, she changed the subject. I should have hit her harder just now. If I had forced her, she would have answered. But I didn't. Instead, I followed her words. Anna, there are many methods in this world considerably more terrible than a smack. My existence made Makoto and Willow seem like star-crossed lovers. so Willow wouldn't be honest with me, and Makoto pitied her apparent powerlessness. But actually, there is no such thing as powerlessness. It is always just calculation and greed. Chapter 12. Of course, my parents know about Willow and Makoto. Like me, they wouldn't punish the two juniors directly. Instead, they cut things off properly. They terminated all resources allocated to the Liu family and announced the end of the partnership between the two families. They also had Willow and Makoto relocated to other levels. After all, my class was exceptional, totally supported by the Wang family. We enjoyed the best educational resources and equipment, top university speakers providing speeches, and even annual study abroad spots available for free, chances to meet the Wang family's business partners at school functions. These were things many families dreamed about. Now Willow and Makoto were wrapped up and sent away. The cards the Wang family had given Willow were inactive. Her privileges to spend at any Wang-owned property were removed. All the resources she had counted on from the Wang family were revoked. Newspapers and media that had earlier praised her were suddenly disinterested. Classmates who had always greeted her with smiles changed how they treated her. No one fawned over her or adored her. The limitless supply of fancy clothes bags and jewelry from the Wang family stopped. All this happened virtually overnight. Losing the identity of George's fiancé flipped Willow's world upside down. I don't know what she was thinking, because she had no chance to see me. She simply started sending frantic messages. At first, she couldn't believe it. Her texts read, "George, would you please not cancel the engagement? Why would the Wang family issue such a statement? My family is furious today. George is the card you gave me frozen. I'm in a bad mood today and wanted to go to Violet Restaurant yet. There's no table. Didn't you mention you liked that restaurant and secured a private room for me? I may go whenever, right? I don't want to cut ties with you. Don't you remember our destiny patterns match? We're meant to be. Please don't be angry with me. Okay, your health matters most." Then fear set in. Her messages turned urgent. "Do you truly not want me anymore? I went to the Wang house to find you today and was kicked out. Let me see you. If it's because of Makoto we broke up. He moved schools. After being with him, I realized I was dumb. I don't actually love him. He had bad intentions. He knew I was your fiancé and still fussed over me. I was fascinated by his lovely discourse. I promise I'll never see him again. George. I've been thinking a lot lately. I was too stupid before. Can we go back to how things were? You were so wonderful to me. I want to repay you." Finally, she begged. She sent voicemails, stuttering on her words. "Even if you have Anna by your side, can't I stay too? I won't compete with her. As long as you let me remain by your side, please see me. I miss you so much. I genuinely miss you. Without you, I'm not doing well at all. I keep dreaming of us sitting in the courtyard reading. I want to live like that forever. Please lock me up with you. I don't need freedom. I just want to be by your side." I blocked her. She couldn't reach me and could only post regretful statements on social media. Occasionally, I saw them with Makoto and her criticizing each other in the comments, and a crowd of observers piling in. I glanced once or twice and lost interest. I also didn't want to be the center of gossip. Within seconds, both their accounts were muted and eventually silenced. From then on, they vanished from the internet. Chapter 13. I guess I had a dream. I imagined that when I lived in the hospital, I picked up a paper airplane beside the window. On it, in clumsy, childlike handwriting, was a single straightforward wish. Want to get better? Eat a watermelon-flavored lollipop. A very plain wish. Getting better isn't that simple, but giving a child a candy is easy for me. So that day, I directed the butler to dish out a big bag of lollipops to every child in the hospital who was allowed to have candy, watermelon grape, and orange flavors. Later, I found additional paper airplanes. That child seemed to think I was a kind of fairy. He excitedly recounted how wonderful the lollipops were made wishes to me and complimented me as the finest fairy. Those requests were simple, sometimes to witness fireworks, sometimes to sketch, sometimes to keep a potted flower. So I offered that group of young patients spinning tops oil pastels and a tiny bouquet for each of them. I didn't let anyone know I existed, and I never tried to find out who owned the paper airplane. At some point, additional handwriting began to appear on the planes, precise and elegant, only a few words each time. Get better soon. Live a long life. May everything go smoothly. Maybe it was the child's parents making wishes for them. That's what I thought, but regrettably, life and death are not under anyone's control. I couldn't make those wishes come true. Before I left that facility, I contributed a considerable sum for treatment eligible patients could apply. I left one last paper airplane on the first floor, writing only one line: "Get well. Goodbye." But when I got in the car to depart, I thought I heard sprinting footsteps behind me. I looked back. A girl raced out the door. I couldn't properly see her face. Or perhaps after so many years, my memory has just clouded. A breeze stroked my cheek. Half awake, I opened my eyes and saw the kite above me, a swaying wave of green in the breeze, and the girl sitting quietly beside me as if she were drawing. Those familiar oil pastels. How many years have I given them out? Why do they still seem so well maintained? She stared at me. Her face progressively overlapped with the one from my dream. I asked Anna on the paper airplane, "Were you making wishes to me on behalf of your sister?" She froze. When she glanced at me again, beautiful, lovely, clean eyes were full, with summertime scenery sunlight dancing inside them. Finally, they bent into a wonderful shape. She answered softly, "No." Then, in a hushed voice, "I was praying for you." Chapter 14. When the Liu family came to force Willow Liu to apologize, I was sitting in the front courtyard outside the gate going at Anna's report card. She had promised to cook us a picnic, to build a kite that could soar high, desire to achieve first place so she wouldn't shame me. She had done all of it. I hadn't yet determined how to praise her when a disturbance sounded at the gate. Deprived of the Wang family's refuge and support, the Liu family's standing has deteriorated recently. The Liu household had fallen back to a modest small firm that made a few $100,000 a year, enough to live properly, but a far cry from their former wealth. Once you've tasted huge riches, coming down to thrift is hard. Losing what you once had is unquestionably the most agonizing thing. It was like that for the Liu family and for Willow, so although they knew I didn't want to see her, they ultimately could not help themselves. The whole family arrived up. Willow knelt at the gate, begging my forgiveness. Every face bore desperate emotions. It was the first time I'd seen Willow in months. She looked awful. Haggard eyes ringed red. The instant she saw me, her eyes lit up and she inched toward me on her knees. Her position of ardent begging was humiliatingly ingratiating. The formerly proud, aloof air had vanished. Those airs of refinement and coolness felt like nothing but smoke. Losing the title of George's fiancé had overturned the luxury built around her. She'd lived better than others. Yet she was unwilling to accept the collapse. She actually sincerely regretted it, now shouting my name in frantic pleas. "George." I turned instead to the middle-aged man who led the Liu family and answered coldly, "Do not appear before me again." The faces of everyone in the Liu family froze. Willow went still, tears pouring from her eyes. "I'm not persecuting the Liu family," I said, "but if you persist in bothering me, you will bear the consequences." My expression and look made it plain I meant every word. The Liu patriarch seemed to recall something and was frightened. His lips quiver as he nodded again, saying nothing further, and tugged Willow away. Willow shouted hoarsely, asking me, "George, I'm sorry, George, please don't desert me." Over and over, serious to the point of pain until the cries vanished. "Anna." I only looked at Anna because I had finally figured of how to appreciate her. "Look up." She gazed at me. Those clear eyes possibly not quite comprehending what I intended. I lightly touched her cheek and bent down a little. When I caught her gaze, her face flushed instantly. She squeezed her lips together and said, "Mr. Wang." She replied sheepishly, "If you want to praise me in the future." Her voice sounded timid. "Could you always do it this way?" She would not lie to me. Even about something embarrassing, with her lips slightly pressed, she admitted it. "I really like it." I looked aside, feeling heat at my fingertips. I said, "All right." Chapter 15. The day Anna was admitted to the country's premier medical school, my parents took me to the hospital for a full checkup. When the results came out, everyone celebrated. The disease hadn't worsened. On the opposite, things had even improved. Maybe the new medication worked better. Maybe participating with treatment had raised my mood. Maybe it was the skill of those increasingly clever doctors. Or maybe it was something else. My mother wiped tears from the corners of her eyes, her voice nearly choking. "I'm so happy." My father turned aside his emaciated cheekbones, flushed with red-rimmed eyes. I asked, a little dazed, "Does this mean I can stay with you both a while longer?" They couldn't keep back anymore. They burst into tears. Chapter 16. Do humans truly share something like a destiny pattern Paul and Laura didn't know? But that year, they went to village of Clear Waters to help build a school. At a girl's window, they noticed a paper airplane. The handwriting on it was all too familiar. Their son's. The girl's face also appeared familiar, as if she had ever applied for the charity fund they'd set up at the hospital to save her gravely ill sister. The master riding with them gave forth a gentle whisper. He explained that this girl Anna had once undergone a major upheaval in her destiny pattern. She had been fated for orphanhood and suffering, however, because she had met a benefactor, she had gone from hardship to fortune. Now her destiny pattern and George's were said to be an ideal fit, a bond inscribed in the stars. Do people actually have such fated ties? Paul and Laura hadn't believed so before, but George had pushed them to beg every god in heaven to cling to any evidence of cause and effect, even to place confidence in something as ethereal as fate. And so they brought Anna into the Wang family. They questioned her. "What do you want?" She only grinned and said, "I've already written my desire to the little angel who dwelt on the hospital rooftop, the one her sister spoke of as all-powerful. She had sent innumerable paper aircraft. She had observed him from afar, in dark areas, never daring to disturb him with thanks. She had prayed for him thousands of times, wishing him a long life." Chapter 17. I had another dream. When I woke, Anna was pushing my wheelchair. Suddenly, I wanted to climb a peak to observe the sunrise. It was actually simply a little hill, one that could be reached by cable car, but I wanted to attempt climbing it myself. Of course, after a little period, I felt exhausted, but the sunrise at the summit was spectacular. The medical staff going with us snapped a Polaroid of me and Anna. She carefully placed it into her small notebook, the one loaded with things about me. I asked, "Can I see it?" She froze, a little flustered. Her brows curved, her gaze tilted upward. If it had been previously, I would have told her, forget it. But nevertheless, the longer I spent with her, the more mischievous I became. I said nothing, simply looked at her softly. Anna pouted, then handed it over. The breeze lifted the yellowed pages. Every page had the same line written on it. "George, may you live a long life." On the front page, there was a little doodle of a smiling figure. It was dated the very first day she came to the Wang family. She had written, "Today, the little angel smiled at me once. It feels like spring has arrived early."